Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It is very late for me to be recording this because it is actually July 20th, not July 19th. It is International Chess Day, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me how you're going to be celebrating in the comments down below. I've just watched the end of the FIFA World Cup Final. Spoilers, if you haven't seen it yet. Spain have won the World Cup. They have defeated Argentina after extra time, 1-0. Ferran Torres with the winner. But you are not here about that. You are here for chess. And I have some good news for you. Every single game in this round was a draw. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
The aimless, I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it. And I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations.
No, but seriously, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through them. They were all draws, but it doesn't mean the games weren't interesting. We'll start off with this game between Alireza Firouzja and Hans Niemann. Then we'll go to the all-Indian clash between Pranash M and Arjun Erigaisi. We'll then go to Nihal Saran versus Dmitry Andreikin, and we'll end with the world champion Gukesh versus Nurdebek Abdusatorov. Hans had e4, so he had a game with white, and Alireza Firouzja, the Frenchman, busts out of French. We have e4, e6, d4, d5, and we have knight to c3, the classical way to play. Now we get takes, knight takes, now knight d7, potentially now going for knight to f6. We get knight to f3, knight to f6, takes, and now bishop to e3. This particular line of the French can be quite drawish because there is quite a bit of symmetry. The only imbalance is d4e. Black very quickly transfers the knight to the center. White does the same and gives up the bishop pair. Hans Niemann gives up the bishop pair. He's happy to give Alireza two bishops, but that's because he's probably going to be taking this light squared bishop back any moment. Bishop d6, and he captures the light squared bishop back. We have queen to f3, now c6, long castles. It is very similar, and yet Hans Niemann is down over half an hour on the clock. He's going to be down even more now after c3. He is down quite some time. Alireza is obviously very well prepared. I mean, he played a French, so he should be. We have king b8, now king to b1. Queen c7, h3. And only here on move 16 does Alireza think, and he plays the move h5. I can't explain the idea exactly. Potentially he's maybe looking for a rook h6 to get the rook onto the 6th rank to cause some problems for the moment. That's the only thing I can really think of. It's a very interesting game because probably the more pieces get traded, the more likely this is going to be a draw because of the nature of the opposite color bishops. But while they're still on there, if you can generate an attack, opposite color bishops generally favor the attacking side. But you already know how this game ends. But just because you know the answer doesn't mean you know how to get there. As the players began preparing their forces, we had all four rooks gather on the d-file. We had this bishop maneuver here, the light square bishop maneuver over here. And kind of we're getting to a point where someone is going to have to do something, and they decide not to do very much of anything. They are maneuvering. They are still maneuvering. They are shuffling their pieces, and the rooks have kind of ended up back where they were. The only difference is the queens. And, well, look, Hans is making progress. He's, keep pushing the pawn, so there's not threefold repetition. But, the rooks undouble. And now look at Hans. He's really trying to make progress. He's pushing all of his pawns. He's really trying to make progress. But we get this trade, and now look at this. You would think, if the rooks were doubled, you'd be losing. We're going to get that pawn back check. And ultimately, just in the nick of time, everything gets traded. Hans here probably has quite a few weaknesses, so he's going to have to defend this very accurately. He's still down on time as he has been for most of this game, but ultimately they will swap everything off, and after rook takes e5, we end, as I mentioned, with the opposite color bishops, and the game is a draw. Going to the all-Indian clash between Arjun Erigaisi and Pranash M. This is the type of game you would imagine Arjun would be able to win. He's got white, he's playing at 2600. This is the type of game he could win to really put pressure on Alireza Firouzja. They played an Italian game with knight to f6 and bishop to c5. And it was, like a transposition to the gioco pianissimo, the quiet variation of the Italian. d6, rook to e1, bishop to a7, knight bd2, bishop e6. We go and pin the knight. We play h3. The knight comes back. We play d4, which is what you're supposed to do, and we maneuver the bishops back. The knight comes out this way. The knight goes to f1 because you're readying all the pieces to go here. You're doing the same on this side of the board, and this is how you're meant to play this position, which is why they've spent no time thinking at all. And still no time thinking, and still no time thinking, and still, okay, 2 minutes of thought here on the move c6, which is very thematic. And, you know, another 2 minutes here. No time spent at all on queen d7. Now the knight gets put here, and now f6. We're still not thinking. We're still not thinking. We thought. Arjun thinks for a long time and decides to take the knight. We take back. We move here without thinking. We move here basically without thinking. Here without thinking. Here. Here. I mean, you're waiting for the clocks to move. But they're not really doing that. It's an Italian. It's a very closed position at the moment. Still lots of pawns. The bishops would love to open themselves up and just, you know, then you could really get stuff going. It looks like Arjun is maybe trying something here on the queen side. You can see he's got his queen on b1, which normally looks stupid, but he might be preparing some like b4 break. But for the moment, everything is just really close. The king slides off, I suppose, getting out of this diagonal. Now takes, and now Arjun has a chance to make an inaccuracy, and he does. Knight takes d4, not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to capture very nicely and keep your pawns together. Why would you capture like this? Because now d5 comes. And Pranash M is better. And he's up 17 minutes on the clock. Takes, and here he has to be accurate. What is the best move? To go and threaten checkmate. Sounds very silly, but that's the best move. Because you threaten checkmate, the knight might have to go back, and then you, like, take this. He does it in the wrong move order. Bishop takes d5 is a blunder. Bishop b8 is better because after a move, let's say like g3. Now, bishop takes d5 comes with check. And it's just a better move order. Bishop takes d5 now. This doesn't come with check. And now I can remove this knight. And I can get the pawn back. And the thing is, this is now defended. And you might say, wait, hang on. Can't I threaten mate now? Yeah, but now I can stop it. You go here. And now I can get, boom, f4. Which looks silly because you're like, what if I just take, and queen takes here, and then anti-threatening mate? Well, you could probably bring something back to defend. So rook takes, queen takes, check. Draw. Arjun kind of escapes with one there. Because he gets very lucky because rook takes, sorry, just going back a couple more moves. Rook takes e3 looks devastating because, like, this position looks like dead loss. That is checkmate and is very hard to defend. You either have to go here, which hangs a king, or you have to, like, go here, which still probably leads you getting hunted to oblivion. So Arjun decides to go for this and then force threefold repetition, which, I mean, you cannot blame him. His position was pretty precarious there. Nihal Tharan versus Dmitry Andreikin. Andreikin with the white pieces. He plays d4. And we get a King's Indian defense. Now, this is where these two showed up to fight. We had, I don't know what this is. This is a line, apparently. You could put a fourth pawn there. You could knight f3. You could even play f3, which I think is the same-ish. Bishop e3. We get, you know, quite a classical way to play this. The knight now gets moved to e5. f4 now, so like a transposition into like a 4 pawns. This is the Karpov system, where the knight now gets kicked back. We play bishop to d3. Now we play e6, looking to strike. Knight to f3, takes, pawn takes, rook to e8, castles, and now c6. And you're just kind of using your stuff to chip away at this big thing. The engine is always going to favor white, generally speaking. It's like +1 here. But black always generally seems to get enough compensation at some point. Takes. Now queen d2. Now, bishop to b7 looks really silly, but you're potentially going to be opening up the board. And it's not as locked, so you're not getting a traditional King's Indian defense attack structure. The structure black uses to attack, rather than the King's Indian attack, which is played with white. And white now has to kind of deal with all the complications that come with this position. So we get rook ad1, now c5. Looks silly, but you are kind of closing in on this, and you're opening this up. Knight goes out to g5, but after queen e7, white's got a choice. You can go here, which seems natural. You're putting stuff on this diagonal. Or you can start to strike and really shred things open. We go here, which is just a bit passive. all the advantage is gone for Andrejkin. He gets slammed with d5. Takes, and we liquidate quite a bit. And now knight to f6. Queen takes. We grab here, which is really, really fancy. Queen takes, rook takes. Knight comes here, takes. Bishop slides back. We put the bishop in the way, so not trading the rooks off yet. Andrejkin is now 35 minutes versus 9. But there's not going to be much more you can do. At some point, everything is just going to get traded. And there it is. This endgame is not winnable. So he had pressure for a moment, did Dmitry Andrejkin against Nihal Sarin, but they two made a draw. And so, what was potentially the most important matchup, because Nurdirbek Abdusattorov almost certainly is going to be in the next candidates, and he could be potentially coming up against Gukesh in the candidates, or playing Gukesh for the World Championship, depending. That is if Gukesh either loses his championship and qualifies for the candidates, or retains his championship, and therefore is playing the next candidates winner. So Nurdirbek plays d4, knight f6, and we get just the Queen's Gambit declined. I couldn't remember if Gukesh went for a Queen's Indian. We get a Rogozin with knight to c6. We have seen this in the tournament before. e3, short castles, now queen back to c2. Again, this looks silly, but you've made black play some silly moves as well. So both of you look equally silly. As we begin kind of the process of going through all of this, this is why I thought Gukesh at some point was going for a Queen's Indian. He might put the bishop here, actually, at some point, but normally you do that when the knight's still there. So I can capture and then target stuff on this side of the board. So potentially going here, but he's kind of locked himself out. But it's, it's a Queen's Gambit decline. There's not much fancy stuff you can do. We get a bunch of trades, bishop e2. Black maintaining this. They now have an open b file, but so does white. It's very closed. Gukesh, for once, is not out of preparation first. Nurdirbek was the first to think, the first to blink, and he's down about 20 minutes on the clock. Gukesh invests, 12 of them, of that 20-minute advantage, to play the move c4, kind of locking things down. Now bishop to f3. You created a weakness, I'm going to exploit it. I'm going to go after it. We get now knight to a5, which just looks to go put the knight here. That's why I played this. You probably could have gone here first if you wanted to try and defend this, but there's no need to do that at the moment. Castles, now bishop e6, and now e4, and now rook to c8. Takes, knight takes, rook e1. You don't need to take this at the moment with anything. So just keep developing. Yes, now b3, now I take, and now bishop to c3. And Gukesh here has a choice to be better. He can take this pawn. He really, really can. He can take the pawn on a3. I can't explain why he doesn't. a5. He doesn't take a free pawn. He's now up 8 minutes on the clock. He's now up 17 minutes on the clock. So he had time to try and find it. Now we get bishop e4. We get rook to e3. Rook e8. Bishop g4 hits the rook. We swap off a pair of bishops, and now d5. And this is how Nurdirbek is going to try and win this game. Push this pawn through. I don't know how he plans to do that, if he plans to bribe Gukesh, or he plans to, I don't know, because that actually looks like a clean sacrifice of a pawn. There might be some tactic, but knight takes queen takes d5. I don't see the problem. Yes, rook d1, but queen c5. Gukesh is up a pawn. He's probably not going to be able to keep this one, though, at some point. This is the only way he wins the game, or if he wins this one and gets 2 pass pawns. But again, he would probably have to bribe Nurdirbek to do that, and he's now only up 2 minutes on the clock. Queen f5. Rook drops back. Now bishop takes. Pawn takes. And now Gukesh has a chance. But we've seen already, the game he lost, it was in time trouble. The knight comes out, just hits everything, by the way. So this hangs a queen. But I will take your rook with check and win the queen back. And this is not fast enough. Which is ridiculous, redonkulous. Because let's say king... well, you got to be careful. So let's say king f8 takes. You can push. But by some miracle, you can play like rook ed3. And this isn't not fast enough because this is check and it's mate. So really, really cool there. So that is why all of these tactics seem to just work out. The queens see each other. If you take here, I can't remember what the exact order is, but what happens basically is We go here, the rook slides back to now protect everything, because if you took my queen, as we said, the rook would be hanging. If you move the queen, or let's say queen takes knight, then I take the rook. So that's the whole idea. Rook slides back, now everything's defended, queen comes in, we swap off a pair of rooks, and now we pick up one of the pawns. So Gukesh is no longer up a pawn. Yes, you get c3, but my knight gets back in time to blockade. I give my king lift. I start pushing my pawn, you take this, I come back, which now just causes you quite a lot of problems, and I should be winning my pawn back any moment as I begin pinning things. We swap off a pair of rooks, and after queen takes c3, they agree to a draw on move 41. And that is how everything shapes up after 4 rounds. Alireza Firouzja is still in the lead. Arjun Erigaisi is still second, still half a point behind. And we'll see how everything shapes up after 5 rounds. And we'll see you tomorrow, or today, I suppose, for International Chess Day, round 5. This is obviously coming out after midnight because the FIFA World Cup went to extra time. Again, cheers. I hope you enjoyed the video.